Hey, good afternoon.
Hi there, this is Jeff.
Yes, this is he.
Jeff, what's going on? It's Becca Switzer with Roof Sales Mastery. How are you today?
Oh my God, this is so funny. I totally forgot I had this appointment. What's going on, Becca?
You literally just booked it. Let's get it together, Jeff. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, I'm sorry. What can I say? I completely blanked out on it. But hey, thanks for calling. So,
Absolutely.
I'll be really quick and let's get to the point. So,
Yep. I
I'm
like
working
your
for,
style already. This is going to work
yeah,
out
I'm working
just
for,
fine.
yeah, I just like straight to the point. So, I started working for this company. I killed it. Now all of a sudden I'm sales manager. I still got to kill it, knocking, but at the same time I'm trying to train. So I was really interested at the beginning when I first started of like your new sales training. That like now that I'm trying to come up with a team of 10 guys,
Okay.
I need to find a way to kind of do it. And as you call the old way, I mean, we don't even have the old way. We have, I mean, it's, if I were to actually explain it to you, you would just start laughing, but I can't throw my company underneath the door. I can't throw them underneath the mat, so it is what it is.
Most people are throwing themselves under the bus at this point. They're like, we're not doing it right. So it's okay.
So that's kind of where I'm at. I just want to get some information on it because I need to kind of find out, like, I'm great at training people. I'm great at, like, showing them what I do. The thing that I'm just going to be totally straight, the knocking is awesome, but
Yeah.
like overcoming each one of those like no, no's, how do I mean even as me, how do I get past that? Because I'm relatively successful, but like when I hear you talk about it and I've listened to the videos and I hear them, the advice that you give to the other guys, I'm like, oh yeah, well I didn't think of that, but I'm gonna try that the next time. Oh yeah, that's a great idea. So I'm looking for like if I were to do this, packed in like all of your material, is there a lot of that? Is there a lot of overcoming the negative and trying to get past that?
That's what it is. I mean, that's what my training is like word for word sales training, right? So my program is not something that you log in and it's just like, go get them, Tiger, and it sounds good, but then you leave and you're pumped up, but then you're like, but how do I do it though?
Right.
Right? I know there's a lot of stuff that's out there like that. So, yeah, well, okay, so let's dive in. Normally, what I do is kind of get like a brief overview of what your situation is, which you've already kind of filled me in, just so I have context for like, all right, what's going on, what's working, what's not. So, what we'll kind of do is let's talk about the key points that you just covered. I'll kind of give you some insight on it, my opinion. At the end of the call, obviously, I'll give you my honest recommendation. Like, Jeff, listen, for what you said you need, from what we talked about, I would say this, and this is probably going to be the best bet. Here's how much it is. If you find what you're looking for, buy it, all right? But if you don't find what you're looking for, like you're not going to hurt my feelings or anything like that. But let's just kind of go through and figure out like what's going on, what's going to be, the biggest help for you, okay?
Got it.
So first thing, so you have been, before you were elected sales manager, how long were you selling for?
1 month.
A month? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I killed it. I mean, like my first week out, I came out and killed it. I got like 9 houses.
Nice.
I was out selling everybody in my company. Like, I don't know, like my closest competition had 1 house.
Yeah. So now I'm done. Okay, so I see this a lot, right? And I don't know if you've seen the video, but I actually have a video out there that's called "The Sales Manager Position is the Most Overlooked."
I read it. Yeah.
Perfect.
I mean, I listened to it.
Yep. Yeah, because a lot of what happens is companies go, ooh, this guy's good. Okay, let's pluck him out of the field, and then he'll just teach everybody what he does, right? So your company is probably, and it's a little bit misguided, but what they want to do is they look at you and they go, oh, Jeff's a freak. Let's just put him in.
Teach success to everybody else. I get it.
Exactly. But here's the problem. You are a freak of nature just for you. Like, you can't expect to teach the average Joe what you're doing and then just have it click.
Exactly, I know that. I'm smart enough to know that. That's why I am talking to Becca Switzer right now.
And that's right, and that's why we're here. And so I just wanted to help you. A lot of times when people come to me and they're like, listen, like, I'm really good and I'm teaching these guys exactly what I do and say, but it's not translating. And so that's where we have to get to basics because, like I said, you're one of those people that, like, your company found you and you're a diamond in the rough, but most people are pretty average and not in a bad way. It's just like they can't learn that way. And so we need to put the tools in your hands to make them be able to learn. So, all right. So So another thing that you said, and I just want to touch on this, was you're like, hey, I'm really good at knocking and stuff, but then when the objections come, I'm really having a hard time like teaching these guys exactly what to say. So this is another factor that plays into you being a freak of nature. You probably, with your approach, sometimes even prevent a lot of the objections that the average person's going to get. And so these guys are getting objections because they can't do it like you. And then when they come to you, you're like, nobody said that to me, right? And so we want to be able to give these guys word for word exactly what to say. Like, they should be prepared when somebody says to them, well, I think I'm just going to call my insurance agent. Or, well, my husband already looked at it. Or, can't you just leave me your card? Or can't you leave me a bid? Or, we're good, thanks. Or, we already have a roofer. Or, we don't have any damage. Or whatever it is that they say. There's a billion different objections they can get at the door, right?
Right, yep.
So what my training has in there, and again, it's going to depend on what program we're talking about, but what I have in there is, first and foremost, before we're handling objections, we want to have a tailored door approach that's for specifically the environment that they're knocking in. For example, we're not going to teach them to say the same thing on April 10th when the storm just happened 3 days ago, if it's the end of October and it's been, however many months, I don't know how many, 6 or 7 months or something like that, and the storm is older, right?
Correct.
They're not going to say the same thing. We can't be teaching them a canned door approach and being like, here, this one usually works like a lot of the time. If you just say it enough times, you're going to get some appointments. Yeah, that might be true, but we don't want these guys to have to knock 200 doors a day to get their appointments.
Yeah, and that's how I did it at the beginning. I mean, I just pounded, I made
threw
mistakes,
shit at the wall.
I whatever, but then I figured it out. I figured it out for me, but
right.
I want to fast track these guys so they don't have to sit around for an extended period of time.
Absolutely.
That's what there's no fast tracking, but there's getting a little bit more help for them than exactly what I can maybe offer.
Of course there is, because think about, you might have heard me use this example, and I use it all the livelong day, but if you took these guys and you threw them in my kitchen right now, and you said, hey, there's flour and eggs and stuff, exactly, just go make it. They can't. It doesn't matter how many times they try. It's like, there is a fast track. The fast track is Duncan Hines makes a German chocolate cake box that you can just follow the directions, stick it in the oven, and in 42 minutes, you've got yourself a cake, right? So this is the same thing. Like, it is a recipe. It's, listen, you go to the door, you say this. And then if a customer says this, you say that. If they say that, you say this. And if you do that, now it's very tactical. We're not throwing shit at the wall and hoping it sticks. We're saying, okay, here's the situation. It's late in the year right now. Here are the objections you're going to get. Here's the approach you're going to use, word for word. And then you're probably going to get one of these 3 objections. Here's exactly how to handle those. Rinse and repeat. And then these guys become trained assassins. Like, it's so easy, it's stupid, right? It's like...
And that's what I want. I want to train them to be assassins. But, I was really thinking about you because I hired this new guy, Joel. He's like, do you have scripts for me? Do you have scripts for me? And I'm like, Joe, I don't have scripts
You have to have scripts.
But I'm going to work with you, and we're going to work on pitches together until you're very comfortable with it. But I obviously am calling you because I need something more than just my approach.
Humans require, I'm the same way. So I remember, when I started, I was like, listen, just tell me what to say. That's all I wanted. And there was no written format. The best that I could get was fellow salesmen that I would, record on my phone. But it was different every time. And it wasn't, it just wasn't a cohesive way to learn. And obviously I figured shit out. But we want to be able to just say, here's exactly what to do and say from the get-go. So it's super easy for these guys. And by the way, it gives them confidence. We're forgetting about kind of the peripheral benefits here. With right now, certainly they could listen to you go knock doors and they might pick up a few things to say. But when we specifically formally train them and we say, here are the scripts, here's what you're going to study, they feel confident and their delivery is better. They get better results because of that alone. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, 100% makes sense, yes.
We want to give them that. So anyways, that's just a little bit of, touching on that whole aspect of why you're good at what you do, but what these guys need and So, a couple things. Are you are guys like hiring right now? How many sales guys are there? What's the situation? Like, are you responsible for running training classes right now, recruiting new people? What's going on?
I became sales manager because I was asking for it. I also want to grow up in the company. We're a larger corporation, so there's room for me to do my thing to even become like a licensee. So I put myself in this position specifically because I want to go places with it.
Right.
So I am hiring. My ads are doing great. What I've done, I get people calling me constantly. And I've been like weeding them out by just having like a conversation with them. So I'm good with that aspect of it. For me, it's like the training. I've got a training program that I've been doing, but it gets to the point to where this whole scripts thing comes into play, and like I want to be able to I can give them all that knowledge and help them through this process. But when they go knock on the door, I don't want to be there holding their hands because I know what it's like to have two people come to my door.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, I was following guys, and I was like, dude, this is just uncomfortable.
Right. You're just standing there, and you're like,
It's just weird. So I want to be able to give them the tools that they can go and be confident.
Yes.
Knock the door. They're going to stumble through the first few.
Definitely.
Through the first 100. But then after that, they're going to be like, I've got this. And I'm like, the shit. So I want to fast track my boys to that. I walked in the middle of a crisis a little bit with a bunch of guys who've been there for a while. And they used to perform really well. Now they're really not performing really well. And I was a big shiny star. And so now the general manager, the owner, has now split us into two teams, my team and the other sales manager's team. So I'm getting all the new hires, and I just want to train my people totally specifically for me.
Yes.
And so I've talked to them about you. We've had multiple conversations about this, and I'm just like, well, you guys want to split the price? No. So I'm like, you know what? F it. If I did call her up, and I've gone through this whole process, and I decide to pull the trigger, and then my people totally rock star out, I'm just going to be like the big finger back to y'all. And I'm not going to tell you how I'm doing it. I'm just going to look like the star child. And that's just going to be what it's like. So
yeah, well, and Jeff, you know what?
That's kind of where it's at. Like, I'm going to shine with my team, and we're going to rock out.
First of all, I love your attitude.
I'm hoping that this could be a thing that would help do that. And that's why I'm here talking to you.
Absolutely. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about a couple things that just came up. One, how much to your company is one good salesperson worth? Let's put a legitimate number on it. Like, how much do you think one good salesperson is worth for the year?
For the year, what I want them to do is $1.1 million a year in business.
Those would be
good salesman to me is $1 million.
Okay, so one good salesperson is worth up to $1 million in revenue. And how much do you think even the most average salesperson? This guy, he's doing the job. He's not making buku bucks, but he's doing it, and he's consistent. How much is that guy worth?
That would be the company minimum, so $48,000 a year.
$48,000.
I'm sorry, no, $480,000 a year. So
in sales, okay.
$500,000, $500,000 in sales.
Okay, so $500,000. So you're telling me, and not you, but from your company's perspective here, it's like you're telling me the average person that you hire is going to be worth between $500,000 and $1 million to your company, but they wouldn't want to spend a couple $1,000s to create even one person that's going to bring that in. That's
Bingo.
crazy.
And that's why I'm here, because I'm like, I'm going to put if I feel it, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is at, and I'm going to do it. So, I really don't care about them. So I make enough money that this is really not such an ordeal. So.
Well, and by the way, Jeff, at some point, and I know you just started, but that's how you look at, eventually down the road, you go, why am I with this company when I'm doing everything myself anyway? And, you have options at that point. If you are stuck in a situation where they're just like, well, this is the way we've always done it, and we're not going to change. And you're like, but there's better ways.
Yep.
There was a time when we rode horses everywhere, but now we have cars. Just get a car. So anyways, that's just a really important thing to make. And then another thing I just wrote down, you mentioned there's a bunch of pre-existing guys right now that used to do really well, but now they're just kind of like, they're kind of petering, right?
Yeah, they just got lazy.
Now, well, yes, sometimes people do get lazy, but this is something that no matter how good you're doing, you're going to see this happen if you don't have the proper management tools in place and strategies. So, you probably heard me talk about this in the video, right? But I said, it's not hire, train people, let them loose. It's hire, train, and then what?
Manage them.
Practice,
Yeah, practice.
right? We keep training them, we keep them sharp, we keep them motivated, we hold them accountable, we keep providing value to them to sharpen their skills and keep them kicking ass. Nobody in this industry provides, I shouldn't say nobody, that's a horrible thing to say. Most companies don't have the tools to provide that, so they hire people, and then in the beginning they're making money, they're doing great, but then it's just like it gets old, the job gets tiring, it's hot outside, it gets harder, and guys just, they lose their zest for the job. And then most companies don't have anything to say except get out there, you're lazy, go knock more doors, right? And it's like,
yeah, and I've been a part of that, and I don't want to be a part of that. And so just even now at the very beginning, when we talk about accountability, we talk about all those things, like I'm just trying to approach it from a total 180 of what's been done in the past.
Yes.
So
yeah, and if you have tools, go ahead.
Yep, go ahead.
Well,
no,
yeah.
No, I'm listening.
If you've got tools like in your role where you go, here's exactly how to do it. Here's the contest to run, the pay structure I'd recommend. Here's the sales meetings once a week that you could have and what they should sound like. Here's content to deliver. Here's exactly how to hold people accountable without either feeling like a slave driver on one end of the spectrum or worse, becoming their buddy where they like you, but they're not going to listen to jack shit that you say, right? There's all kinds of stuff that you need to be able to have in your toolkit, because otherwise all you can do is like do your best to motivate them, and that just doesn't really work. You have to have a strategy for it, right?
No, that definitely doesn't work after a while. I totally agree with you.
It doesn't. You just show up at the meeting, you're like, come on guys, everybody. It's like,
no,
bruh.
Yeah, and that's kind of where it's at too right now. But
exactly.
I'm not the general manager. I can't do that, but when I am general manager, it'll be a totally different story. Or if I decide to just totally leave and open up my own roofing company or whatever it is I decide.
And that's why people do, there's a lot of attrition in this industry. And sometimes I have business owners that say to me, they're like, how do I prevent people from leaving? And I'm like, well, first of all, you don't. If somebody's going to leave and start throwing thing, they're going to start throwing thing. But the second thing is, make sure you're creating an environment that has everything your people need. If they need more support in production, put somebody in that role. If they need training, buy them training. There's different things that these guys need to be able to stick around. And if they're not happy and they know there's a better way, they will leave.
Yep.
So you just have to kind of be responsible for that. But anyways, all right. So it sounds like I get where you're going with this. We're not talking, just to make sure we're not talking about this so I don't skip it, but are we talking about supplementing or Xactivate or anything like that as well, or is this
just...
we
can't. We have a public adjuster in house who does all of our supplementing, and I don't know if it's different where you're at, but I guess in Florida it's kind of illegal for me to try to do a supplement if I'm not a public adjuster.
So it's not illegal to do a supplement. What you can't do is quote negotiate a claim. You can't talk about policy. So what that means is you couldn't go to the insurance company and say, hey, Mrs. Jones has an HO3 policy, and it says in there that we're owed overhead and profit, blah, blah, blah. Or it has, you can't talk policy. That's acting as a PA without a license.
Okay.
But it's not like that. You send it in like you're the big dumb contractor, and you're just like, this is just my estimate. Like, this is why I'm asking for these things, right? But that's neither here nor there. If you're not dealing with that, we won't waste time talking about it. Okay. So we have options. Do you have any other specific questions, grievances, worries, needs, anything like that before we kind of get to brass tacks?
No, just how can I get a vehicle like yours and throw a ladder up on top? And it's like, no, I'm good. I'm just joking.
I drove a Dodge Neon for most of my roofing career, and I had a Sherwin-Williams telescoping ladder.
Yeah, there you go, and it worked.
It did. I didn't do the safest protocol, definitely not OSHA compliant. double pulling the ladder, getting on garage. It's fine. It's okay. I'm still here today. I have both of my legs. So, all right. So here's what we'll do. Based on what you've said, I'm going to give you multiple recommendations, and then it's really probably at the end of it going to come down to just your budget and what fits.
Yep.
But I'm going to start at the top and say, hey, Jeff, in a perfect world, if you can swing it, I would do all of these things. And then if it's like, wow, it's way too much, then we can just find something smaller. It's whatever. But we'll start at the top with everything in a bag of chips, okay?
Yep. So
the first thing that you absolutely need, like if you could only get one thing on the planet, I would say you got to get this. That'd be the new hires training. So
that's where I was looking. So we're good there. Yeah.
So the new hires training, it sounds like you probably know what it is, but that's the system that's the repeatable, standardized 3 to 5 days. Your guys are out the door and they're actually getting results. Like even though they're brand new, like they have the basic scripts. We're giving them everything they need, but nothing they don't as a brand new person. Okay.
Yep.
This is going to prevent you from putting the cart before the horse and teaching them stuff they don't need to know yet and teaching them in the wrong order and having to take them by the hand. There's no ride-along training. There's none of that stuff, okay? It's all classroom. And if you're doing pretty well at the recruiting, you should be able to have a class of 4, 5, 6 people that you train, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then they're out the door, okay?
Right.
So that's the new hires. That's how that works. Now, there's a couple other things I would recommend with this. So 2 other things. One of them, an option you have, it's kind of an accessory course, but it's called the Roof Sales Accelerator. And I literally just came out with this a couple months ago, so there's not even a page for it on the website. But what that is the new hires training is not online. You're going to access your materials to teach it from the website, but it's a live training in a classroom setting at your office. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So the accelerator is like the roof sales survival kit, like Roof Sales 101, but it is online. And what it's meant for is either individual salesmen who literally just started and they call me and they're like, I don't know anything, help. And they usually get that. But the other way that it's utilized is when you've got your new hires and you've trained them, well, that's great. And they're all high from training and things have been going great. But then they come back and they want to hear it again. And they have 2 options. One is they just like sit on their ass and try to figure it out on their own, but then get frustrated. Or they call you constantly. If you've got 5 guys in the field and each of them calls you twice a day for just 7 minutes because they have questions, you can't get anything done. Like your phone's constantly ringing, and you don't want to have to answer the same it's going to be the same stuff pretty much over and over again. So the accelerator is a course where they can log in. And it's not like the advanced sales training. It's very concise. It's got like the basic stuff they need to have that we did cover in the new hires training. They get to hear me go over the sales presentation word for word. There's what is and isn't hail damage in there. Handling the most common objections at the door, the most common objections during the close, like that kind of stuff's in there. Okay, so it's a great follow-up resource for your guys to log in and just refresh their memory when they're brand new. Does that make sense?
Yep, 100%.
Okay, let me just take a breath here. All right, I talk all day long. Okay, so the last thing that I would probably recommend to you is the sales team management program. And that's for you. That's for the sales manager. That basically just gives you a whole toolkit for managing salesmen. So that's going to give you I show you how to break down each person's individual sales or income goal down to the number of doors they have to knock each week. So literally, I give you a formula. You do the math with them, and it's like, oh, for you to get that 750 this year, you just have to knock 49 doors this week. That means 10 doors 5 days a week. That's nothing. And then you hold them accountable to those 49 doors. And
then you know what my minimum is?
What's that?
Our minimum is like 25 doors a day. I have a minimum for my new guys of 50 doors a day.
50 doors a day. But listen, what if they don't have to knock 50 doors a day to get
great? That's great.
That's what
awesome.
We want, right? We're not rewarding them for sweat equity. We want them to, my friend Zane, he's actually my assistant, but he made such a great analogy one day. He's like, listen, there's 2 ways to hit a target. One is take a shotgun and blast a shitload of bullets, or like take an automatic weapon, just be like, and hopefully one's gonna hit the target, right? Or, but you have to make a lot of shots with that. You do a lot of bullets are going out there. But if you're really good, you should just be able to, boom, one shot, hit the target. That's what we want these guys to do. So then the job's more fun. They like it. Shit, I go out and I knock 50 doors a week and I sell $750,000. Hell yeah. That's what we want them to do. Okay?
Yep.
So anywho,
exactly.
That's on there, because that's what you want to be able to do. Is we don't just want to say to each person, knock more doors. It's like specifically, what are we holding you accountable to? And then it's very easy. If you don't get those doors in, it's like, hey, Chris, did you get those 49 doors in this week? No? All right, where can we make up those other 15 doors? Thursday night? Awesome. Can I call you at like 8 o'clock and check in and see how those went? So I show you literally like that, how to have conversations with these people to manage them without feeling like a slave driver. It's a lot of accountability. Plus, I give you some pretty sophisticated compensation structures. That's something you might need to talk about with your company. But it's there's a bonus structure and a ladder that really drives monthly consistent sales, keeps momentum so people don't get fat and happy. There's 17 pre-written sales meetings in there for you to deliver. I show you how to write your own sales meeting as well, of course, but I give you 17 pre-packaged, ready to go, badass meetings that you can run. There's different bonuses, contests to run. I show you how to do like a door knocking blitz. There's a ton of material in there. It's what you need as a sales manager to keep your team going after they've been trained. Because like I said earlier, you don't train them, let them lose. You train them, you let them lose. And then we practice, manage, motivate, hold accountable, offer correction, offer praise. But that's a learned skill. Like, you have to have tools to do that.
Yep, no, you do.
So those are, in a perfect world. Again, I didn't talk about the recruiting machine, but that's another thing you may need. We didn't really talk about that. But are you needing anything for like hiring, or is it just the training for you right now?
Yeah, I think it's for the training, because I took a stab at it. I feel like I placed one ad, I got like 30 or 40 people to come back. So I thought that was not so horrible.
Right. Yeah, that's not too shitty.
A lot of them out with just like actually it was a 2-question, 1-minute phone call. I was able to like get rid of like the majority of people. So
Roger that.
So that aspect of it, I don't think that I need right now. I know the new hires training. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Straight up, like that's something that I can pull the trigger on today.
Yeah.